Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you another video. This hat, it looks ridiculous, but the hair underneath is even worse, so I'm just going to spare you all for a change. All right, so this is what we're talking about here. On the forum, you know how it is. Someone's always saying something in regards to a player is better than somebody from the past that they never seen. Um, it's usually somebody who's not smart enough to realize it's not a good idea to do, to say the least. And yet again, we have a situation where someone is saying that today's Jason Tatum is better than the best version of Paul Pierce that they ever seen, or better than Paul Pierce, which I think is laughable to the highest order after what I saw in Game 5, particularly. Now, I ain't saying Jason Tatum ain't gonna get there. He'll get there. He'll probably surpass Paul Pierce at some point, honestly. But to say he's there now, after what we just saw last night and then the previous night and all these series where he's been in and out of consistency, I think it's not the time to be sitting up here saying he's better than a legend like that. Not even close. Not even close. No. Paul Pierce is an NBA champion. Paul Pierce made a million different All-Star teams. He's clutch all the time. He's very consistent, efficient. Did a lot of different things other than scoring the basketball, even though he was a prolific scorer for many years. You got to understand, Paul Pierce was leading a Boston team to the playoffs that didn't have a whole lot. He was there for the Anton Walker era, which was not interesting, but a solid dynamic era for them early on. I think they made the playoffs a couple times. He had some big games. But you got to go back and look at some of those old Boston Celtics games he would have on a Sunday afternoon. It was so many games like that where he would go for 38, 10, 4 steals. See, that's another thing people don't understand. Paul Pierce was an excellent defender, but he contributed so much on the scoring end of the ball. But he was an excellent defender. He was very good at it. And another thing about Paul Pierce you have to understand is his game was never predicated on athleticism, even though he could do things that he could dunk on your head repeatedly, and he would repeatedly. So he was athletic, but his game wasn't predicated on athleticism. His game was low to the ground. He's shooting mid-range jumpers, step back fallaways. A lot of that stuff that Dirk did, he was doing before Dirk. Some of the fallaway jumpers people don't realize. A lot of that stuff he was doing first. You know what I mean? Mid-range, three-point shots. His three-point shot was wet consistently. He could knock down 5 and 6 threes in an era where it wasn't something people were doing. That's why he scored so much, because he consistently stepped back there and put off his set shot that he just let loose all the time. So he was lethal three-point shooter. He took advantage of the mid-range. He would dunk on your head, had no problems with his huge frame, pushing people around and getting to his spots. He would use his step backs, his hezzies, and his pump fakes and things of that nature to get you out of position. And even if you were on him tight, with full hands up, all that, he would still find ways of getting shots off like a Kobe, like somebody like T-Mac, and would make them shots over your head with his 6'10 frame. I think he was like 6'10, 6'8. I'm not really sure how tall he is, actually. Probably about 6'8, something like that. But he was big. He was a solid dude. Very, very, very hefty up and down. So it was not like you were just moving him around. He had a little Carmelo in a sense that you bump him and you'd still have to deal with that pressure. He did damage as he came at you. So the notion that Paul Pierce was anything less than a Hall of Famer and a Celtic legend is ridiculous. The only thing that held him back to any degree was how bad the Celtics teams were when he got there. That's it. That's it. If he would have found himself in, let's say, San Antonio, he'd have like 5 rings. If he was a Laker, he'd have like 5 rings. That's how real Paul Pierce's career was. So Paul Pierce's personality lends itself to people not liking him a lot of the time. I didn't like him for the longest time because he's a Celtic and he was leading the Beat LA chant. I had problems with him throughout that. He ended up going to the Clippers, didn't like him there. So I'm not a Paul Pierce basketball fan. But being aware of his skill set and what he provided, there was no system he didn't fit in. There was no number 2 to him. When he was number 1, he was the guy, and he held that down consistently. He didn't get hurt very often. Rarely got hurt. And ultimately was able to continue his career. I think injuries ultimately got to him in the end, but still had some big times with Washington and all that. But we're talking about Paul Pierce, the Boston Celtic. Now with Jason Tatum, I see all kinds of upside. I'm not sitting here saying Jason Tatum's anything less than that in terms of being able to do amazing things on a defensive end. He's more capable on the defensive end than than Paul Pierce based on his length and his athleticism. His jump shot is just as wet. He just needs to continue to work on it and up his basketball IQ. But where Paul Pierce has him beat is playmaking. Paul Pierce is always looking for people. He's always looking to be consistent in using the pass as a weapon to make himself open. He had no problem getting 6 assists, 7 assists. He wasn't doing it like LeBron like that all the time, but he would get a triple-double here and there. But the majority of what he did was going up for 38, 40, scoring, three-point shots, mid-range, scoring. And then if he had teammates that needed the ball, they could get their rhythm while he was on the floor as well, which is something he has on Jason Tatum, So I think they're comparable in terms of greatness at the end. When we look out at Jason Tatum's career, depending on what he's able to do with the Celtics, get a championship or two, I think there's a good chance he'll meet Paul Pierce and likely exceed Paul Pierce as a Celtic. But to say he's there now, after what I saw in Game 5, man, stop playing, man. Stop that. Stop playing. No, we can't. We're not going to be prisoners of the moment just because he had an amazing Game 6. We're not going to do that. He stunk it up awful in Game 5, and he needs to just continue to work on his game, continue to be who he is. His team's still alive. You got to win Game 7. A lot is going to be riding on what we're about to see very much ahead in the next game. It's a Game 7 for him. So we can help define that. Maybe if he goes off crazy in that game, maybe we can get a little more. You can get a little closer to talking about what Paul Pierce is about. I think this game actually could help define that very much, to be honest with you. But he's just gonna have to continue to work on his game and do this for some time. He's gonna have to be consistent, win something with the Celtics. You can't talk about a guy whose name is up there and got a banner up there and say that to say people are saying that that Tatum is better than that guy. Nah, you got to do something before you can say you're better than that guy. It ain't just about skill set. You got to accomplish some things. So that's what it is, man. That's what I wanted to say, man. BDF 44. I thank you all for watching.